Turkey and Iran, two neighbors who share many overlapping interests, are now facing a serious test. A diplomatic row has blown out into the open after comments by Iran's ambassador to Iraq drew a strong rebuke from Turkey. During an interview, Iran's envoy to Baghdad, Iraj Mashredi, criticized Turkey's presence in Iraq. Fatih Yildiz, Turkey's envoy to Baghdad, responded over Twitter, saying the ambassador was the last person to give a lecture on respecting Iraq's borders. The public spat led to Turkey and Iran summoning each other's ambassadors. Turkey has been battling the PKK in northern Iraq for years to prevent the terror group from launching cross-border raids. Last month, the PKK was behind the massacre of 13 Turkish civilians. But despite this latest diplomatic dispute, both Turkey and Iran share similar goals in battling terrorism and ensuring countries like Iraq and Syria do not become safe havens for terror groups. So how will the two neighbors overcome this latest hurdle? And to discuss that, joining me now from Istanbul is Talha Köse. He is the director of SETA's Brussels office. And from London, Mehrdad Honsari. He is a former Iranian diplomat. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. The last couple of weeks saw a series of ups and downs in relations between Turkey and Iran. It even reached to a point of both countries calling in others' ambassadors. But before going into details, Mehrdad, could you walk us through the current Turkey-Iran relations, and was this an unexpected feud between the two?
Well, obviously, every feud is an unexpected one until it happens. But generally speaking, Turkish-Iranian relations in the course of the last 42 years since the inception of the Islamic Republic has had many ups and downs. But irrespective of all the ups and downs and unexpected feuds that have taken place over the years, the general direction has been one of trying to work together and trying to paper over the cracks that have existed. And this recent feud, obviously, something that went perhaps beyond, over and above the kind of reactions that the Iranians were expecting. But I think that the Iranian foreign minister and the establishment within Iran have been cautious in trying not to let this get out of hand, and have acted to sort of, bring the temperature way down.
It's a controlled tension then. So, Talha, why has Turkey's beefed up fight against the PKK terror organization in northern Iraq raised tensions between the two capitals? And why do you think Iran came to the fore in accusing Turkey of violating Iraq's sovereignty before any Iraqi official did so?
I think there are some disagreements over the future of Iraq. So Turkey is trying to strengthen relations with the central government in Iraq, and trying to strengthen the the controlled Iraq, and also increase, improve the relations with the KRG region in that region. So, of course, PKK is an obstacle to Turkey's relations with both Iraqi central government and KRG. So in order to remove this obstacle, Turkey increased its counter-terror operations in northern Iraq. But in some of those areas, there are Shiite militias, Iranian-affiliated militias, and Turkey's military operations and extensions due to counterterrorism operations disturbs these actors. So Iran's vision of Iraq is a little bit more fragmented and loose Iraq, which is controlled by certain militia powers, whereas Turkey wants to have a stronger centrally governed Iraq and try to improve relations with both Baghdad and Erbil. So I think their visions with regard to Iraq and their visions with regard to Syria contradict. So both countries want actually territorial unity of Syria and Iraq, but their vision of the governance and their overall extension of power and influence in those two countries contradict with each other.
So can we say, Mehrdad, that the two have fallen apart in their commitments to counter terrorism?
No, I don't believe so. I think that there is a distinction between Iraq and Syria, and in the sense that obviously in the northern Iraq, one of the problems is that Iran has better relations with the PUK as opposed to Turkey having a better relationship with the KDP party in the KRG region. And that, of course, creates its own tensions. But in general, Iran is not opposed to Turkey protecting itself and moving against PKK and essentially trying to, protect its security. I don't think that is an issue that Iran has ever contested in a serious way. The incident, when the Iranian ambassador in Baghdad makes a statement, is probably due more to the kind of local pressures on him by Iraqi authorities, because whilst Iran does have the militias in Iraq, Iran also claims that it wants a strong central government, and that these militias are associated with and connected with the Iraqi government as time has proceeded.
Yes.
But the situation in Syria is a completely different one, in the sense that Iran has consistently supported the government of Assad, whereas Turkey has changed its position, and floundered around that.
Yeah, but we all know that Turkey wants to drive PKK out of Sinjar region to sever their links to Syria, because we know that some Iranian militias use the area to cross into Syria. So why is Iran adamantly opposing a possible Turkish military operation if these two countries are cooperating on counterterrorism?
I honestly don't know the reason why, if Iran is seriously opposing that, because I think that when it comes to the Kurdish issue, this is a problem which Iran and Turkey share, in the type of concerns that both governments have. And Iran is, you might say, far less critical of Turkey in terms of its actions against the Kurds for the protection of its security than most other states. And I don't know the incident that you're referring to, but I don't think, that in the overall scheme of things, apart from the fact that they disagree about the final outcome and the way that the Assad regime is going to sort of be able to control all of Syria or not, those are issues that separate them. But I don't think that this is a major issue
What's your take on that, Talha, about Iran's opposition?
I think there is a shift of control at the PKK. So PKK used to be at Kandil. They used to be very strong at the Kandil, but in the recent years, they are moving towards Syria, and also Sinjar is an important passing way. So if PKK is out of Kandil, then Iranian influence over the PKK will be weakened, and probably the organization will be more controlled by the American forces through the YPG. So I think Iran wants to at least keep Kandil so that their influence. We know that they have some ties. They have some, although they don't support, but at least they have some influence on the organization. So if PKK moves complete to Sinjar and also northern Syria, I think the Iranian influence will be reduced. So there's also distinction within Iran. I think the Republican Guards have some specific relations. However, Iranian government may also have some disagreements. I think within the Iran, I think there is also some different opposing visions in this, the regional politics.
We know that Turkey and Iran aren't seeing eye to eye on many things, Mehrat, from the Middle East to the Caucasus. They're even at odds on every diplomatic crisis, but they somehow managed to work closely on Syria. Do you think that the three-way Astana mechanism will continue to be functional under the new U.S. administration when it comes to Syria, of course?
It's very difficult to say. It depends very much on how the Americans wish to proceed their own policies. I mean, if under Trump they were about to leave, which they didn't leave, and if they're going to stay, as the indications are under Biden, that they want to not follow the path that Trump had previously taken, then that affects the whole equation and the success of the Astana process or whatever other arrangements that is made. Obviously, you need to have the United States on board, and you need to have other players who are against this process and their interests are in a different direction on board. So it's too early to say whether, that process, which has not succeeded in any way. I mean, it's been a dialogue, but it has not achieved any of its main objectives over the time, that how this is going to go.
So Talha, how could sustained tensions between Ankara and Tehran change power balance in the region, and who is likely to benefit it from?
I think there is no major shift in the balance of power between Tehran and Ankara. So what is, the relations between the new American administration will probably determine the key balance in this issue. So if the Biden administration tries to improve ties with Tehran, then Tehran's footing in the region will be strengthened.
Yes.
However, the improvement of relations between Tehran and Washington will be based on certain conditions. So in any case, reducing influence of the Republican Guards of Iran will probably help improvement of ties between Ankara and Tehran.
So Merhat, last question, how could lifting sanctions on Iran contribute to the regional stability?
Well, I don't think that necessarily contributes to regional stability. It just because one of the reducing sanctions by itself is not something that will reduce that would enhance stability. It's what Iran needs to do is to come to in some sort of a modus vivendi with all the regional powers, and with Turkey in particular. I don't believe that there is any major problem. As I've mentioned before, these squabbles have existed, but in general, Iran needs Turkey for its economic needs primarily, and I don't think that the sanctions itself will in any way affect Iran's overall regional policy. And unless that is addressed, then issues of security and long-term stability will be addressed.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining us.